Okay, so we've allowed this case to bench cool for as long as we can. So it feels cool to the touch or just barely warm. You don't want to open it too quickly because you're going to encourage a lot of thermal shrinkage. You won't see it, but you'll definitely see it when you start equilibrating your case after you placed it in your articulator. So let it bench cool as much as you can. So to release this pressure in here, you won't be able to do it by just simply putting in the handle and turning the Allen key. There's a lot of pressure in here. If you can't do it this way, what I suggest you do is leave this on the side, put on your Allen key and just kind of tentatively hold it here, and using the side of the hammer to hit it counterclockwise. Stay away from your finger. And that's good. Now I can hand unwind. I can remove my flasks. You can open up either the upper or the lower. It really doesn't make a difference. You can start by removing the lid. So you can find a little notch back here, place your plaster, the backside of your plaster knife, and then pry it open. It comes out rather easily. As you're doing this, I'm going to show you how to clean the flasks. Place your plaster knife in here and clean up the vent holes. And you can do some more thorough cleaning with some brush and water. So I'm going to leave that there. This one here, unfortunately for this type of system, there isn't a deflasking jig, so we're going to use the old school way and hammer it a little bit. Start from the bottom where you have this little ring. You're going to hold the lower half of the flask. There's no point of holding in here and trying to hit the top. It's not going to work. So you're going to hit the lower half of the flask and hold it relatively close to the bench so it's not a long ways down. So somewhere here, and gently tap it, and that should release. Possibly wipe off any excess material. And then this little metal piece, we're going to put it on the top of the flask now, and I'm going to hold it at the sides again. Find a convenient way where you can get a good grip on it. And once again, tap it slowly. Move over because it. Turn it over. And if you haven't Vaseline your flasks enough, you're gonna have a hard time trying to get this out. I'm not sure if you can see it on camera, but I'm trying to cradle the flask. I'm not trying to cradle the stone. I'm trying to hold the flask itself. So it's starting to give. A little bit more. And then once I get it to move, this is not the best way of processing dentures, obviously. It's one of the original methods. It's ideal to have a system that has a deflasking jig so you don't have to do all this, use all this force to get it out. So far so good. I haven't broken the model, but it's a little more resistance than I would like to get this out. So perhaps move your ring around a little bit. And hopefully we haven't broken anything. Remember the little piece of paper we put here? That encouraged that part to fall off. This is coming out. And it's relatively clean. And a very fine piece of acrylic right there. Very thin. That's what we like to see. So break off this piece of acrylic because this tends to be rather sharp. So you don't cut your fingers. So I'm going to set this one aside. That looks pretty good. Just a few pieces of stone in here that we can pick out very carefully. I have my model intact, so that's good. I'm going to clean off my flask. And then just put everything back together, and of course you can clean it up a little bit more later on. So I'm going to put that back together so I don't lose anything, and set that to the side. And now I'm ready to do the lower one. So once again, I'm going to pry out the lid, clean off the stone. Be careful not to slip because you can cut your hand easily. Open up the little vent holes. It's a lot easier to clean the stone while it's still moist. If you let this dry and do it the next day, it's a little more challenging. And I'll set that off there. And once again, I'm going to start by releasing that one. That one's a little easier. It's always a little easier. It's this one that presents a more of a challenge. That's how it should happen. So maybe the one before I didn't have enough Vaseline coating the flask. So we like to see something like that. So in that case, I have again a very fine layer or fine film of acrylic. You're always going to have this. You can't prevent that. Now, in order to knock this off, you can use a hammer. I like to use the Allen key from the compress. That part comes off where we had the paper. And then I'm going to hit it along the buckle corridor, and it breaks right off. Same thing on the other side. And you see it breaks right off. In here, I'm going to place my knife and gently pry that little piece off. And then I'll continue on the bottom half. And I'm trying to force the stone along the buckle side of the model to go. Some people might want to use a pair of snippers to break this off. I like to use the Allen key itself. And you can hear the sound in the stone. If it doesn't go, then you might want to use a chisel, an air chisel. Just like that. Just to start it. And then I can continue with my Allen key. And everything comes off rather nicely. So we're going to peel off this excess acrylic so doesn't cut into our fingers. Might want to use a knife. Just peel it off completely from the sides so you can put your hands on the case and handle it. Okay, so once again, make sure you want to clean off your flasks completely so there's no flash of acrylic here, just to kind of get it ready for the next case. Put everything back together, and of course I would give this a wash down with some soap and water. Put everything back into your compress, tighten everything up so you know where to find it. Okay, of course, clean up your immediate working area, and then we'll take a closer look with this on the next video and start equilibrating the case.